Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, How to Make LinkedIn Work for Your Practice, presented by Allison Shields. My name is Stephanie Phelan, and I'm a marketing manager at MyCase, and I will be your host today. I'd like to give you a few tips about participating on GoToWebinar today. The webinar control panel is on the right-hand side of your screen. This is where you may submit questions and where you'll see polls come up throughout the presentation. We save all of your questions until the end of the presentation. That's when Allison will answer what we've collected throughout the webinar. Also, please note that these slides will be available by end of day tomorrow on the MyCase blog, and it will also be emailed to all registrants. Today's webinar is hosted by MyCase, so before we jump into things, I'd like to give you a quick overview. MyCase is a web-based law practice management software that takes care of your daily practice requirements for calendaring, contact management, document management and templates, time and billing, client communications, custom workflows, and more in one solution at an affordable price. MyCase is priced for solo and small firms at just $39 a month per attorney and $29 a month per paralegal or support staff. We also offer MyCase websites for our customers. We use a modern professional design built for your firm. The websites contain social media and blog integration, and best of all, complete integration with MyCase practice management software. Now you and your customers can log into MyCase directly from your own website. Last but not least, we enjoy hosting educational events for professionals in the legal industry, and that is why we're all here today. Now let me tell you a little bit about our presenter. Allison Shields is the founder and president at Legal Ease Consulting, which provides practice management and business development coaching and consulting services for law firms as well as individual lawyers. As a former practicing lawyer with experience as a law firm manager, she understands the law firm environment and the daily pressures faced by lawyers trying to manage and build their business while practicing law and successfully serving their clients. Allison helps lawyers and law firms improve productivity, boost their bottom line, and attract higher value clients. Allison is a social media expert and author of LinkedIn in 1 hour for lawyers. Thank you for being here today, Allison. I am going to start you off today with our very first poll question. Okay, I've launched that there, and I'll read them to you. How experienced are you with LinkedIn? I don't currently have a LinkedIn profile. I have a profile, but it's bare bones, and I rarely use LinkedIn. My profile is pretty complete, and I have over 200 connections. I use LinkedIn a few times a month. Or the last option, I'm a LinkedIn power user. I have 500 plus connections and use LinkedIn at least weekly. All right. Looks like those votes are coming in very quickly, and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll in just a couple of seconds. Okay, and we have our results. So 5% don't have a current LinkedIn profile. 50% have a profile, but it's bare bones and rarely use it. 28%, the profile is pretty complete with over 200 connections, and 17% are those power users. So Allison, I'll hand that off to you, and you can go ahead and comment on those polls.
Okay, I'm actually kind of surprised that we have people on the webinar today that don't have a profile at all. But I'm not surprised that we have, half of the people who are joining us today who have kind of a bare bones profile and they rarely use LinkedIn, because that's mostly the audiences that I end up speaking to. A lot of lawyers have set up a profile, but they really haven't done too much with it. And I'm a little bit surprised that we have as many power users as we have on the call, on the webinar today. Hopefully, I'll be able to give something to everybody regardless of what category you're in as we go through today's webinar. So, I like to take a little bit of a different approach in talking about LinkedIn, because I think what a lot of lawyers do is they set up a LinkedIn profile because they think that they should, but they don't really approach it strategically. So I want to talk a little bit today about how to approach your LinkedIn profile strategically so that you can get the most out of it. And the way I like to start that off is by saying, having everybody ask themselves, what is your purpose? My co-author on LinkedIn in 1 Hour for Lawyers, Dennis Kennedy, likes to ask the question this way, saying, what are you hiring LinkedIn to do for you? In other words, why are you going on to LinkedIn? Are you looking to just build your network? Are you looking to try to find potential clients? Are you looking to reconnect with people maybe that you haven't been in contact with in a while? And your purpose will drive a lot of what you do on LinkedIn. And the first part of that is really, well, who are you trying to reach? I mean, LinkedIn is a networking platform. It's a business networking platform as opposed to a more social-based networking platform, but essentially it's networking. And just like when you're networking in real life, you really want to figure out, well, who are the people that I want to connect with? Who am I trying to reach? Who do I want to get in front of? And that can be a number of different people on LinkedIn. You could be looking for potential clients. You could want to use LinkedIn as a way to stay connected with existing clients or former clients. Maybe it's a way to become visible to referral sources. Lots of lawyers get business from other attorneys, and they maybe get referrals from attorneys in other jurisdictions. And LinkedIn is a good way to reach out to those people. But you also might be interested in getting in front of influencers who might be people who could be referral sources, but they could be people who just help you get visibility. That could be media people. It could be other influencers in your community, and a lot of that depends on what kind of practice you have, who your potential clients are, who your referral sources might be, whether you have a business-to-consumer or a business-to-business type practice. There are a lot of different things that go into this, and so the answers to some of these things are going to be different for different people. But one thing that's consistent is that everything that you do on LinkedIn should be geared towards your target audience, the people that you want to reach when you're going on to LinkedIn. So I always like to start a discussion of LinkedIn by talking about your profile. That's really the basic building block, or one of the first basic building blocks of LinkedIn is your profile. So when you're writing your profile, think about who your profile is written for. Again, who's that target audience? Who are you trying to reach? It makes a big difference, and the way that you word the different things in your profile will be different depending on who it's written for. So keep that in mind. Most lawyers, even if they're looking for referrals from other lawyers, are not writing their profile for other lawyers. They're really writing it for their potential clients or the end user, the people that they want to connect with, which most of the time is not going to be other lawyers, at least ultimately. So one of the first things in your profile that people see is what's called your professional headline. And it appears everywhere on LinkedIn where your name appears. And you can see it here on the screen. A lot of times lawyers give short shrift to their professional headline and they just say attorney, or maybe even they say something like associate, which doesn't tell anybody anything. And when someone interacts with you on LinkedIn, usually they'll see this first, just your photo, your name, your professional headline, and maybe where you are geographically. They're not necessarily always going to be coming to your full profile first. So you want to make sure that your professional headline is descriptive enough so that if you come up in the search results on LinkedIn, that just by your professional headline, people will know what you do. So it really should include some kind of word like attorney or lawyer so that the people who find you on LinkedIn know that that's what you do. But you don't necessarily want to even stop there. So here are some examples. You can see in the first one, this person has attorney in her professional headline. It's attorney and founder at the name of her law firm, which is great. So now I know that she's an attorney, but I don't know what kind of law she practices. The second example that I have here, this one says tax attorney. So that's even better. Now I know that this is a tax lawyer. So if I'm looking specifically for a tax attorney and these two results come up, the chances are I'm going to click on the person's profile that says tax attorney because it's more descriptive. But this is a third example of a headline. This one says medical malpractice attorney representing patients. So what does this one have in their professional headline that would be helpful? Well, It says that she's an attorney. It also identifies her practice area, and it identifies who her clients are. So if I'm a person who's maybe looking for a medical malpractice lawyer, or maybe I'm somebody who wants to refer cases to a medical malpractice lawyer because I'm a personal injury attorney but I don't do med mal, now I can see right away that this is a person who is a plaintiff's medical malpractice attorney. But as a layperson, I might not know what the word plaintiff means, but I would know what the word patient means. So this is a good example of a nice headline, professional headline. I like it if you keep your name of your firm in the professional headline if you can, in part because you don't always see what you see here, which is managing partner at and her firm everywhere on LinkedIn. So sometimes it's good to have that in your headline too, so especially if your firm name is something that's going to resonate with people. So let's move now from the headline to the summary. The summary is another area that I think lawyers skip over a lot. A lot of lawyers don't even have the summary section on their LinkedIn profile. I recommend that you put it there. It's a nice opportunity for you to essentially summarize your practice. I kind of look at it as the cover letter to the rest of your profile, which is sort of like your LinkedIn resume. So let's talk about some tips for summaries. And again, we're looking at who your target audience is. You want to write for those people. Use the words that they use. So if you're targeting potential clients, use the kind of words that they use to describe their problems or issues. You want to use keywords. One of the reasons to have a complete LinkedIn profile is it's great for search engine optimization. A lot of times when people are searching for you by name, your LinkedIn profile will come up before your website bio. And so you want to make sure that you've got keywords in there. It also helps for search within LinkedIn. Don't use legal jargon. Unless your clients use it and they know what it means, you're better off using language that lay people use because that's what they're going to search on and that's what they're going to understand when they're reading your profile. And I recommend that you write your profile, not just your summary, in the first person. It's not like a resume in that it's really as if you're going out and networking. So you want to make a connection. You wouldn't introduce yourself in the third person. You would introduce yourself in the first person. So that's how you want to kind of talk. It makes a better connection with people on LinkedIn. And the real key to your summary, I think, is would your clients recognize themselves as potential candidates for your services just by reading your profile? So, and even maybe just by reading your summary, can somebody tell from the reading of your summary that they're the kind of person that should be, you know, hiring you, or that you're the lawyer for them just based on what your profile says? So this is rather long for a slide presentation, but this is taken from an actual LinkedIn profile of an attorney. And if you look at it, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but this person starts off by saying, I'm a business-minded attorney providing trusted advice at the intersection of real estate, finance, and technology. And then goes on to say you need practical solutions and creative solutions and somebody who's responsive and understands that, you know, life is about working hard and playing hard. I provide profitable outcomes and positive community impacts, and I look forward to talking to you. And I would venture to guess that almost nobody on this call would be able to tell me what this person really does, or would be able to say whether or not they knew that they needed this person's services. I mean, I'm an attorney and I don't know what this person's talking about. And it's not because of the legal jargon, it's because there's no real description of what they do. This is the rest of the summary. It talks more about service and about listening and responding and taking business seriously, all of which is great stuff, but it still doesn't really say what this person does or who their clients are. And that's what you want your summary to do. You want it to hit people between the eyes so that they can recognize themselves right away as people who need your services. A couple of other things that you can do with your profile is you can add sections. There are certain default sections that LinkedIn puts on everybody's profile, and then they make suggestions of different sections that you can add. And so a couple of sections that are helpful for lawyers to have on their profile are things like publications, if you've written articles or books, Projects is a nice sort of catch-all section that you can add. I've had lawyers add the project section to talk about big cases that they've handled, maybe that are in the public eye or that take up a lot of their time. Certifications, certainly, we know the ethical rules say there are certain words in certain jurisdictions that you can't use unless you're certified. So certifications is something that's nice to highlight on your LinkedIn profile if you have them. Another thing you can do is add media to your profile. And this slide shows you the little add media icon, which looks like a square with a plus sign. When you're on the edit profile screen, anywhere you see that square with a plus sign, you can add documents, you can add photos, videos, full presentations to your profile. And you can add them in your summary, experience, or education sections. So if you're brand new out of law school and you don't have much in the way of experience, but you did presentations in school that maybe demonstrate some of the areas you have knowledge in, this might be a place to make yourself stand out. And that's what this is all about. It's wanting to stand out and make your profile speak to the people you want it to speak to. And you want them to, by looking at your profile, want to work with you or want to pick up the phone and call you more than they would maybe want to reach out to somebody else. And this is what the portfolio looks like if you add some of these media items, photos, and presentations to your profile. It breaks it up a little bit. It provides a little bit more interest. It makes your profile stand out from other people. Another thing that can help make you stand out is recommendations. Most people don't like to take the time to write recommendations, so if you have them, or if you write them for others, which is always a nice thing, it makes a big impact because everybody knows that they're not easy to do and they take some time to do. You want to make sure that the recommendation doesn't say anything that you couldn't say directly under the ethical rules. So you want to make sure that you look at your jurisdiction's rules about that and ask the person who's recommending you to make any edits that they would have to make to bring it into compliance. But they stand out in part because LinkedIn has pushed these endorsements, what they call the skills and endorsements section, which used to be skills and expertise. It's very easy to endorse people for skills now, and so the endorsements really don't mean that much because it's too easy, and people often endorse people for things that they don't even know about. So that makes a recommendation that much more valuable. It makes it stand out that much more than the skills and endorsements. I still think that you should put skills onto your profile. It's one of the things that LinkedIn considers when they're deciding whether your profile is complete or not. So definitely do that, but I would take the endorsements with a grain of salt. And I always recommend to my clients that they only endorse people that they know for skills that they actually have personal knowledge about. You know, don't endorse somebody just because you're trying to be nice. In some jurisdictions, that might be an ethical problem for you, but also because it gets frustrating as the person receiving the endorsement who then needs to go in and manage and say, well, this person doesn't really know anything about that, or they don't know me in that context, so I don't really want their endorsement to appear on my profile. So just endorse people you know for things that you know that they do and that you have experience with. The other thing that a lot of lawyers forget about, they put it on their bio maybe, or they would put it on a resume if they were looking for a job, but they forget to put it on their LinkedIn profile, is bar admissions. Obviously, one of the things about LinkedIn is that it's a multi-jurisdictional platform. You're communicating with people all over the country and potentially all over the globe. So putting your bar admissions helps define the jurisdictions that you practice in. Places that I would recommend, since there's obviously no separate section on LinkedIn for it, is to add it to your summary or to your experience. And again, this is an example of a lawyer who just put it at the bottom of her summary this way. She said professional licenses, and she wrote all of the places where she's admitted to practice. So that's something to think about as a lawyer as well. And then finally, I talked a little bit about ethics. You definitely want to review your ethical rules. Remember that LinkedIn profiles qualify as attorney advertising in a lot of different states. That might require certain disclaimers. In New York, it means you really should have the attorney advertising disclaimer on your profile somewhere. You may need disclaimers about confidentiality and attorney-client relationship, or prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome if you're talking about results that you get from for your clients. And one thing I always recommend people look at is the ABA Opinion 10457, which was written about lawyer websites, but a lot of what it says will apply to other online platforms, including LinkedIn. So you want to take a look at that in terms of communicating back and forth with people and whether or not you may need a disclaimer on that profile about whether that's confidential if people are communicating with you through LinkedIn. So those are your individual profiles. But LinkedIn also has something called company pages and now showcase pages, which are a little bit newer. And those relate not to individual lawyers, but to law firms. So if you're solo, you can have a company page and an individual profile, or you can have a page for your firm. And some of the different things that you can put on your company page is information about the firm, again, as opposed to individual lawyers. You can use what's called showcase pages to talk about your different areas of practice, which is especially good if you have a very diverse practice, or maybe you have 2 or 3 practice areas that don't really overlap. You create sort of sub-pages, which I'll show you in a minute. That's the showcase page. So it's like having a firm website and then separate pages for separate practice areas. Again, you can do recommendations. This would be recommendations of the firm as opposed to individual lawyers. You can post news about your firm. Larger firms or multi-jurisdictional firms a lot of times can use it to update their employees. You can promote firm events and highlight the accomplishments of different employees from your firm, because when you create a company page, everybody who works for your company's profile will be linked to that company page. This is just an example of what a company page looks like. This is a patent law firm. You can see how you're connected to people. And then there's updates on what they do. They've got their logo posted here and a banner image, which usually you would want to be similar to what's on your firm website. And then this is what it looks like if you have your own company page and you're managing it. So you've got an update bar at the top, just like you do on your regular profile. And then you'll see links towards the top for analytics and page insights. There are a lot of things that you can find out about how people are interacting with your company page, who's clicking on it, who's engaging, who's seen the posts, all different kinds of analytics that you get with a company page that you don't necessarily get with an individual profile. The other thing that's nice about company pages is if you get enough followers to make it worthwhile, you can target messages to different people. So you can post updates, again, if you have diverse practice areas, only to the people who are interested in that particular practice area. This is just, again, the showcase pages. They highlight, you can highlight different practice areas and send targeted messages. So this is an example. Microsoft has their company page, but then they have showcase pages for different products like Microsoft Office. And you can do the same thing with your firm. Another way of participating on LinkedIn and standing out is being able to use your updates wisely. So I think we're ready for our second poll.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and launch that second poll right there. Thank you, Allison. How often do you post LinkedIn updates? So please select one of the following: either never, rarely, at least once a month, or at least once a week. So please go ahead and put your answers in there. And it looks like the majority of you have voted. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share our results. Okay, so it's definitely the majority. 46% never post LinkedIn updates, 34% post rarely, 11% at least once a month, and 9% are very active, posting at least once a week. Is that about what you expected, Allison?
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard. I mean, a lot of people don't even go on to LinkedIn. They really just accepting and sending invitations, and once they've got their profile up, they're not really visiting. So it's not a surprise to me, but maybe I can get some of those 46% or the 34% rarely posters to consider posting a little bit more frequently. And the reason is because the whole point of updates is to provide information to your audience. It doesn't necessarily have to be talking all about you and what you're doing. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't necessarily be that, because nobody wants to hear about you all the time. Everybody's interested in themselves. So what you want to do is share an update that your audience is going to be interested in. So this is just a screenshot of the update sharing box. So you can share it if you're on Twitter. You can share it with Twitter. It can be public, or you can send updates that will only be seen by people that you're connected to, and they won't be seen by other people on LinkedIn. So for those of you who never post, maybe it's because you're not really sure what you should post in an update. And again, my advice is not to make it all about you. You want to talk about what your audience is interested in. And a lot of times that's links to articles that might be of interest to your audience. Maybe there's an article in the Times, or maybe there's something that you see on LinkedIn Pulse in their news feed that you think would be interesting to your audience. Or maybe it's an article that you wrote on your website or on your blog, or for a trade magazine that you think your audience, wider audience on LinkedIn would be interested in. And then you might want to consider LinkedIn's publishing platform. Maybe you haven't written your own articles, or you don't have a website that has the ability to do that, or you don't have a blog. You haven't had the opportunity to cultivate relationships where you can publish things elsewhere. LinkedIn now lets you publish directly through LinkedIn. And their publishing platform is very easy to use. In the update box, if you see the little pencil icon, you click on that and you're taken to this screen that you see down below, which basically looks like a word processing program. And you put in a title for the post, and then you can write your article, your post there, and that will go out to your connections. And it may go out to a wider LinkedIn audience and get you wider visibility. So it's something to consider for people who are trying to figure out, well, how am I going to get visibility? And I have things to say, but I don't have time to figure out how to write a blog, or my website doesn't let me do that, or I don't want to have to jump through the hoops I would have to jump through at my firm to do that. I can do it on my own LinkedIn profile. And then when you post, LinkedIn has added these social features, so people can like your post, they can comment and start a discussion with you, or they can share it with their audience, and it gets distributed even more widely. And people will see your updates on their homepage if they go to LinkedIn. If they're not going to LinkedIn, they may get an email update from LinkedIn, usually weekly, that says what's happening with your connections, and it will talk about, it will give their network updates as well. So those are the different ways that people see them. With the publishing platform, your connections will also get a notification in their notifications box saying that you've posted a new post. So they're even more likely to see it than they would be normally with a regular update. Okay, so that's your kind of participation with updates and company pages. And the next thing that I'm going to talk about is your connections. Obviously, LinkedIn is a networking platform, so it's really all about connections. So the first thing you want to do is find people to connect with. Obviously, one way to do that is to just connect with people that you've already connected with in real life. LinkedIn has a great alumni tool, and you can connect with people that you went to college with or law school with. It's a nice place to start if you don't know where else to start. You can also look for connections and say, look, I want to make connections with people who are in a certain company. You can do a search for companies, and then you look and see how you're connected. Do I already know people in this company? Or you can click on the See All link and see if there are other people that you might know that you're not already connected with, and you can follow the page to get their updates. Some other ways to connect with people is the People You May Know tool and the Who's Viewed Your Profile tool. And both of those things have been changed a little bit recently. This is the new People You May Know screen. So now you've got bigger pictures of the people, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to connect. And Who's Viewed Your Profile now gives you all kinds of different information. You never get everything, even if you've got one of those premium accounts. but you can get information about where people are looking at you from. What kind of people, in other words, what titles do they have? How are they coming to you? Are they coming to you from LinkedIn search? Are they coming to you from a Google search? And you can get an idea of where people are finding you. And then you can look at the people who are actually looking at you to see if they're people that you might want to connect with. Or even just to get information about, well, why would somebody from this company, or why would this person be looking at me? You can also get information now about how you rank in your network for profile views. So you get a number percent-wise, and then a number out of this many connections, your number whatever, and whether you've gone up and down or down in the last 30 days. So that might be useful for you if you're trying to ramp up your LinkedIn presence and see if what you're doing is effective, if it's getting you more views. One thing I always like to throw in when we're talking about connecting is you always want to personalize your invitations to connect. Give people a reason to connect with you. Make it easy for them. Don't make them have to go look at your profile trying to figure out how they know you. And then continue the conversation. Thank people for connecting with you. You know, the whole point of networking is to keep the relationship moving. Then you can take advantage of your connections. So when you go to somebody that you're connected to and you look at their profile where it tells you the number of connections, if you click on that, you'll see who all of their connections are. You can view them all at once, or you can click on the next button. And that's one way to say, well, I really want to meet Rick Clow, and I see that Dennis is connected to him. You know, maybe Dennis can make an introduction. And that doesn't have to be on LinkedIn. It could be in real life. But that's one way to leverage connections on LinkedIn. See who knows the people that you want to connect to. You can also tag your connections. When you go to your connections page, if you hover over a person, these blue icons, tag, message, and more, will come up. And you can create tags. And this way you can filter your connections by tag. So maybe you want to see just all the personal injury lawyers in your network. Maybe you want to send those people a message. Maybe you've got a referral to make and you want to send these people, hey, I have this case, does anybody want it? Or does anybody know anybody in this area who does this kind of law? Whatever it might be. But you can actually segregate and target messages that way. You can also send messages to multiple connections from your connections page. When you click on the little box, as soon as you select more than one person, at the top you'll see where it says tag, message, combine, and more. And if you click message, you can message all of those people at once. So you can send one message to multiple people, and then you can choose whether or not those people will know that it was a message to multiple people, or it will look to them as if it's a message that's just to them. You can also sync your contacts with your address book. If you use Outlook, there's a social connector there. So right in Outlook, you can get all the LinkedIn information that people have on their profile, so it will be automatically updated in Outlook for you, including their photo. You can use LinkedIn features in Mavericks. Again, add tags, and you can also add reminders and notes to your contacts. When you're traveling, you can search your contacts, see who is where you're going to be, and see if you want to meet up. I showed you how to leverage your connections contacts. And then watch people's network updates to see, you can just like or comment. It's a quick way to continue the relationship. And then send your own periodic messages, whether those are network updates to everybody or just messages to people on LinkedIn, either in a group or individually. A lot of people ask me this question, excuse me, can I withdraw an invitation to connect? I hit the button and I didn't mean to send all those invitations. If you go to your inbox and click on Sent, it will show you whether or not invitations that you sent have been accepted. If they haven't been accepted, you can click on them and click Withdraw. If there's no Withdraw button, it means they've already accepted it and you can't withdraw it because you can only do it before they accept. But if you do it before they accept, they won't be notified that you've withdrawn the invitation. They may never know that you sent it. And then I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn groups, which brings us to our next poll.
Yes, thank you. And I've just launched the poll there. I'll read out loud the questions. How active are you with LinkedIn groups? So please select one of the following. I have not joined any groups on LinkedIn. I have joined a few groups but don't pay much attention to them. I have joined several groups and periodically review the discussions, but don't participate often. I'm an active participant in LinkedIn groups, contributing where I can, posting articles, and starting discussions. So we'll give that a few more seconds. And the votes are coming in very quickly, and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Okay, and for our results, 18% have not joined any groups on LinkedIn. The majority, at 41%, have joined some groups but don't pay much attention to them. 36% have joined several groups, review discussions, but don't engage too much. And just 5% show that they're an active participant, posting articles and discussions.
Okay.
So, yeah, very interesting, huh, Allison?
Yeah, but again, not all that surprising. I think especially for people who are not used to participating in online discussions to begin with, they're a little bit afraid of putting things out there. I also think lawyers sometimes are a little gun shy because they're worried a little bit about, unauthorized practice of law maybe, or they don't want to give actual legal advice, or it might be that they're just not in the right groups. But I think groups, especially for lawyers, is one of the sort of hidden gems of LinkedIn. It's one of the places you really get to know people. And I look at it, again, like I look at real-world networking. When you're out there in the real world, if you go to an event, whether it's a quote-unquote networking event, or it's a bar event, or it's a social event, and you just walk around and give out your business cards, that's like sort of making connections with no follow-up. And you don't participate, you don't join any committees, maybe you show up at the meetings, but you don't really talk to anybody, you stand and talk to only the people that you know. It's not going to really be a great business development tool for you. Same thing with groups online, including groups on LinkedIn. There are opportunities to get known outside of your regular circle, to establish yourself as an expert by participating, demonstrate your knowledge, to build relationships with other people, and to develop rapport, but you have to be there. You have to participate. So groups are under the Interest tab on the main navigation bar. If you don't know where to find them, you click on groups, and they're organized in all kinds of different ways. Again, alumni groups may be the easiest place to start because you know where you went to school, and there's probably people in those groups that you can connect with. But they're organized around all kinds of different areas. And one of the ways to really do this effectively is to think about where your target audience, where do they hang out? What kind of groups do they belong to? What are their interests? And try to join those groups so that you're in front of your target audience. I mean, that's the whole point, is to be interacting with the people that you want to interact with, whether that's potential clients or referral sources or influencers who can kind of help you boost your visibility. This is just an example of what it looks like to be in a group. This is the Law Practice Management group. There's all kinds of discussions. This is actually a little bit of an older screenshot. But once you join some groups and you go to your groups page on LinkedIn, you'll see tiles at the top for the different groups that you belong to. And the little gray square with the number tells you that there's something happening. Maybe there's a new discussion or something happening in that group. And lower down on the pages, you can start your own discussion. So again, this may just be that you found a great article that you want to post the link to in this particular group because you know that the alternative fee lawyers group would be interested in this article that you just found on, how to charge alternative fees, fixed fees in a personal injury case or something. So you enter the title and some details, and then you choose who you want to share it with. And you can share it with one group or multiple groups. And then you decide what type of post it is. Is it a general post? Are you posting a job? Maybe you've got a job opening in your firm, or you're promoting something, which some groups don't allow. And then below that, you have your group's feed. And this is one of the newer things on LinkedIn. Instead of having to go to each group's page separately to see what the new discussions are, you now have essentially a news feed from your groups that they're all of them are in one feed. So you can just scroll down, and it's easy for you to interact with those feeds to see, is this an interesting article? Maybe I want to like it or I want to comment on it. And the more you interact, whether it's by posting your own discussions or interacting with other people's discussions, the more visible you'll become. And you start to develop relationships with people. You know, maybe you just say a comment, this was a really helpful article, thanks, I'm struggling with the same issue, this was really helpful, or here's what I think about this, you know, this is how I do it in my practice. Whatever the case may be, to start a conversation with people. That's how you build relationships. So let's talk about a couple of tips with respect to groups. Again, think about your target audience. What groups do they belong to? One of the ways that you can find that out is by looking at their profile. So let's say you're connected to a really good client and you would love to get more clients who are just like this person. Go to their profile, see what groups they belong to. So maybe they're a business owner and they belong to an entrepreneurs group or a business owners group, or some group that would be filled with people who are just like them. That might be a perfect group for you to belong to, and you know, then maybe they're posting about an issue that they have or a problem that they need solved, and you not only get sort of competitive intelligence about what the marketplace needs in terms of services, but you may be able to jump in and contribute to a discussion, not necessarily to say, hey, I can do that for you, but just to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about and that this is the area that you practice in. Don't make it too overwhelming. Start by joining groups on LinkedIn that you belong to already in real life, whether that's an alumni group or a community group, something that you already do in real life. A lot of bar associations have corresponding LinkedIn groups. That's sometimes the easiest way to start. And then you want to start regularly participating, which again doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can just take a peek at your group's feed, or there are emails that the groups will send you once a week about the discussions that are happening. Just take a couple of seconds to go through and say, is there anything interesting here that I think I could contribute to add to the discussion? You also might, again, want to start your own discussions. There's an issue that you encounter all the time or that your clients encounter all the time. Maybe you've written an article about it, maybe you haven't, maybe it's just something that you want to throw out to the group. Use the social features. Again, it doesn't take much time to click the like button or to leave a quick comment for somebody about something that they've posted. And you can also look at the group membership lists for people that you might want to connect with. Again, if you're looking at your connections groups and you're saying, this is a group that's filled potentially with people that I would like to get to know, once you're in a group with somebody, it's much easier to connect with them on LinkedIn. One of the complaints that I hear about groups are just like groups in real life. Some of them are very promotional, and some of them are very, very valuable. Some of them are filled with people who are only out for themselves, and some of them are, great for a referral business. And sometimes there's a group that's mixed, and you have some people who are really good and some people who are just spamming people. And it happens inside and outside of groups, but a couple of ways that you can prevent or block spam on LinkedIn. Maybe somebody you're connected to and they're sending you a lot of messages, or maybe somebody paid for some kind of a premium account that lets them send all kinds of messages. You can block them or report them by going to their profile and clicking on the More link and choosing one of those options. If they're a connection of yours, you can disconnect. They don't get a message that you're disconnecting, but that will make it harder for them to message you. If they're posting inappropriate things in a group discussion, you can flag them or report them, or you can go to the group moderator and kind of make a complaint to the group moderator. Just quickly want to touch on mobile versions of LinkedIn versus desktop, because a lot of people are using LinkedIn on their tablets or on their smartphones, and the interface is not the same, which is fine for quick things, but anything that's going to be a little bit more detailed, I always say, if you can, use the desktop version. I know a lot of people have gotten trouble using mobile versions when they're uploading their contacts into LinkedIn, because it's not as easy to differentiate when the invitations are going out, and so that's where a lot of people have sent mass invitations to connect on LinkedIn to everybody in their address book, even when they didn't mean to. The customization of invitations on mobile is not the same on LinkedIn. Desktop, again, I always recommend that people customize. Viewer history is different, and there's differences in viewing recent activity, and sometimes mobile can be harder to figure out. So if you're doing quick things like liking or just perusing what's been posted, that's fine. But I say if you're going to do anything substantive, I would recommend to use the desktop version. And then I just want to show people a little bit about settings, because I get a lot of questions about settings, and it's not always obvious where they are. So if you go over to LinkedIn and you look at your little tiny thumbnail photo, that's all the way on the right, and you scroll over that, there'll be a drop-down menu. And one of the options is to review your privacy and settings. So that's where you want to go to change any of your settings. And there's a couple of things that you might want to change, and a couple of things that you just might want to be aware of. So once you click on that settings, a lot of time LinkedIn will bring you back to the login screen. Because once you're going to change your settings, they want to make sure that it's you who's doing it and that you didn't just happen to leave your computer open or put your phone down and somebody else is coming along and now they're going to mess with your profile, change your passwords, or do something not nice. So after you log back in, you'll be brought to the settings screen, and you'll see on the left-hand side there are 4 different categories of settings. Some of them actually overlap, so you may see some of the same options on these different screens. But essentially, there are profile settings, email preferences settings, settings for groups, companies, and applications, and then general account settings. So, I mean, the first thing that you really want to think about is what your privacy controls are. So one of the things that we talk about is this idea of turning on and off your activity broadcasts. Now, for me, I recommend that most people leave their activity broadcasts on all the time. And the point of that is you're on LinkedIn because you want to make connections with people. You want them to see what you're doing. You want to see what they're doing. And if you're hiding things, there's really no point. I mean, the point is to cast a wide net and to connect with people and let them see what you're doing. And most of the time, as a matter of fact, I would say recommend all of the time, you shouldn't be posting anything that you wouldn't want people to see anyway. I mean, private things don't really belong on LinkedIn. The caveat to that is that if you've done a program like this or you're doing a huge overhaul to your profile and you don't want your network getting a message every time you change a title of something because you're adding a little bit at a time, you may want to turn off your activity broadcasts until you finish doing that. So for example, a lot of times when I'm doing a training with a client, well, I'll have them turn off their activity broadcasts. And then we go through and do a whole overhaul of their profile, which may take a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and then we turn the activity broadcast back on. Because if you change practice areas or you change firms or something like that, you do want your network to know that. But you may not want them to see every little change that you make if you're making a whole bunch of changes at once. So just some of the other settings that I think lawyers really should be aware of. We talked about turning on and off your activity broadcasts. Select what others can see when you view your profile. Now, you've probably noticed if you've used the Who's Viewed Your Profile tool on LinkedIn that sometimes you get full information. You get the person's photo, their name, where they work, and you can see how you're connected. Other times it's totally anonymous, and sometimes it will just say, you know, someone in the legal services industry or someone at Microsoft Corporation. Some of that is LinkedIn only showing you certain things on the free account because they want you to upgrade. But some of it is the users themselves are going in and saying, well, I don't want everyone to know all of my information when I'm looking at their profile. I only want them to see certain things. There may be times when you're using LinkedIn that you want to do the same thing, that you want to turn it off or limit what people can see. Again, if you're using LinkedIn to make connections and to become visible, that's probably not the default setting that you want. But there may be certain instances that maybe you're doing research for a case, or maybe you want to look at a competitor's profile and you don't want them to see that you're looking. Something along those lines, you may want to turn it off. But remember to turn it back on, because as soon as you turn off your information about what people can see when you look at their profile, LinkedIn will say, well, if you don't want other people to see your stuff, then we're not going to show you theirs. So you'll get less information about what people are looking at for you. You can set the frequency of email, so if you're getting too many emails from LinkedIn, go into those email settings. Same thing with groups. You can get digest emails, or you can get a notification every time there's a new discussion. You definitely want to turn off the setting that's data sharing with third parties. Third parties know too much about us anyway, so you might as well turn off that setting. And then you want to manage your settings for LinkedIn plugins on third-party sites. And a lot of sites use LinkedIn as a login, or they're connected, and you want to make sure that you're not sharing more information with those platforms than you want to. And finally, the whole goal of using LinkedIn is not to keep it as a silo, as a separate piece of your marketing and business development. It's supposed to be an integrated part of the whole. So you don't want your online presence and your offline presence to be two different things. You want to integrate them. So try to take your digital relationships out into the real world as much as you can. Reach out to people individually, set up meetings, or coffee or telephone calls if they're too far away. You want to make sure that you're really building real relationships, because that's the name of the game. And I think we are pretty much ready for questions.
Yes, Allison, if you wouldn't mind skipping through to that slide so everyone can see about your book there, and then to the next slide. I'll go through a few things and then we'll go to questions. Okay, excellent. So thank you so much, Allison, for that presentation. You really have made me realize that I have a lot of work to do on my profile. For those of you who have to leave us now, please take note of 3 things. MyCase offers a 30-day free trial, and because you attended this webinar today, you get a bonus discount, so please note the promo code on your screen. Secondly, when you close your webinar, a survey will pop up. Please take a moment to answer those survey questions. And also, several of you have inquired. Yes, these slides and the recording will be emailed to you since you're a registrant by tomorrow, and also posted on the MyCase blog. And Allison, I have received many, many questions. Probably won't be able to get to all of them today, so the remainder of the questions will be posted on the blog. But we'll start out with a great question from Catherine. Do you feel there is much value in upgrading your profile? It seems expensive. If you can just kind of let us know what you get with that upgrade.
Yeah, so I think, Catherine, what you're probably asking about is those premium accounts. LinkedIn is always kind of trying to push you to upgrade to a premium account, which is a paid account. There are really a couple of things that make the difference. I would say for probably 99% of lawyers, the free account has more than enough functionality, unless they start taking more features away. Probably more than enough than you need. But there are certain circumstances where you might want to upgrade to a premium account, and there are all different levels and all different kinds. So if you're looking for a job, you might want to get a job seeker account, and the reason for that is just because a lot of companies and now law firms are posting jobs on LinkedIn and accepting sort of resumes, which is really just your LinkedIn profile, through LinkedIn. And with the job seeker account, you get sort of pushed up to the top. So your profile gets more visibility when you're looking for those kinds of jobs. You'll see the different kinds of jobs. You can do searches and save searches for jobs and things like that. So, and it's not that expensive. It's like $25 a month for the basic job seeker. For a couple of months, if you're looking for a job, that might be worth it. If you're recruiting and you want to post jobs on LinkedIn, that's a paid thing. But for a regular premium account, you get a little bit more information about who's viewed your profile. I don't know that it's enough to justify the money. You can send more in-mails, which is that you can reach out to people that you're not connected to, or more people that you're not connected to on LinkedIn. But again, with the free, I think there are enough ways, and most of the time for lawyers, a real cold call when you have absolutely no connection to somebody is not going to be that useful anyway. So, recruiters like that because they can reach out to a lot of people. But if you're not a recruiter, for most lawyers, you probably don't need it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our next question is from Myra. Do you recommend both a company page and an individual attorney page if you are a solo attorney?
Well, it depends. I mean, I don't think it hurts to have the company page, and there are things that you can do on the company page, like putting up separate pages for your different practice areas and things that you can't really fit into your regular profile. So it doesn't hurt, but if you're really strapped for time and you're trying to figure out, well, what should I do? I would make your individual profile the best that it can possibly be before I would start on posting to the company page. And a lot of times you're going to end up posting the same things in both places anyway, so it's a matter of cut and paste once you get them both up. But yeah, I mean, if you have the time, I would definitely do it. I think it makes you look like a professional firm, and down the road, if you hire another person, now you've really got a firm that's separate and apart from just you. Or if you've got staff people, you may want to have a company page so those people are attached to your company page also.
Okay. Looks like we do have time for one more question from Melissa. Can you talk more about the showcase pages?
Sure. So a showcase page, it's like having, I mean, you can't build a showcase page without having the company page first. So the company page is like the firm website, and it has the basic information about the firm, and you can post things there. Showcase pages are to showcase different products or services. I mean, you might even have something, I know some lawyers who have written books and they have a company page for their law firm, and then one of their showcase pages is just all about the book and buying the book and what the book is about and different things that have to do with the book. And other people use it just as ways to target and to segregate between their different practice areas, because maybe they do two things that are very different for two very different audiences. So maybe there's a lawyer who does appeals on all different kinds of things for other attorneys, but the rest of her practice is based on, helping business owners, and there's not that much appeal in that. So they're really two different with two different audiences. One is the sort of business owner audience, and the other one is lawyers who need people to do their appeals for them. And so the showcase pages would talk separately about those practice areas, and then they could target the things that they're posting and the stuff that they're writing about and the photos that they post and presentations and videos and all of that just to those different areas so that people aren't seeing things that don't apply to them.
Okay, great answer. Thank you so much. And there are definitely more questions than we have time to answer now, so I'm going to be collecting these questions that have even come in the past few minutes and posting that on the blog. And Allison, I just wanted to thank you so much. Thank you from everyone at MyCase and all our participants today. It was really a great and informational session, and you will be available, your presentation will be available on our blog tomorrow. So thank you again, Allison.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.